Hi guys, welcome to today's video. On my bench today I've got quite an interesting little project. This is a Fiskars, some would say it's a machete, some would say it's like a bill hook or hook knife or something. I don't really know what it's called, but it's a really interesting project and I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to end up finishing it. So, so come along for the ride, have a look at what we do. There's some interesting design issues that we're going to have to address. Yeah, I'll point them out in a second. So what I've proposed is we go for a kind of a back carry, like on a sling across your back, so it'd be up there somewhere. The idea is that it's going to be a one-hand draw. He's right-handed. Pull it out with one hand, so you've got your left hand free to do stuff. The little bit of background: the customer is a wildland firefighter, and when I was speaking to him, he was just out in California dealing with some of the fires over there. So this is the kind of thing that the sheath needs to be able to stand up to. Yeah, so let's have a look at some of the design issues that we've got with this. Okay, so as we can see, this is the blade edge running down here, so you chop that way. There's the spine. Let's just quickly check that thickness for you. Spine comes in at about 2.5mm thick there. Now, one of the issues that we're going to have with making a sheath for this is, well, let's look at another knife to start with, just to illustrate this point before we get started. So this is my favourite little knife that I put together. I bought the blade from Polar Nordic, great steel, and I made the handle. Also made the sheath. Now what you'll see in difference these two knives is the way the blades run. This blade, it curves away from us. This blade's curving towards. Now this is going to throw up some issues when we come to putting a welt in. So when we look at the sheath, this is the sheath for the smaller knife. And in the middle here, I don't know if you can see, there's an extra piece of leather that we stitch through. This is called our welt. This means that the blade never touches the stitching on the inside. And because of the way we draw the knife, it works really nicely. It pulls out straight, great, not a problem. However, we bring this knife into the equation. How are we going to do this if we... Well, first of all, how do we pull it out when the end is bigger than this section? If we were to make the sheath and trim it so it was nice and tight, we'd never pull this end out. So there's one problem for a start. The next issue we have, if we say we're going to run the sheath the full width all the way down, how do we stop it falling out? That's quite a big problem for us. The other question is, if we do a two-piece sheath, like a sandwich kind of Bowie style sheath, or if we do like a fold over sheath like this one, you know, where do we put the fold? Do we put the fold on this side or on this side? Which side do we put our welt is probably the bigger question. I'm thinking we're going to go for a fold over sheath, and I'll tell you for why now. If we were to do a fold over sheath and fold it along the spine, like most knives are, like this one, you fold around the spine side, what I fear would happen is this is quite pointy, and when you're pulling it out on your back, it's going to want to twist into the sheath. It's the way it's naturally going to want to go, the way your hand pulls. If that were to happen, I have a feeling it would kind of work its way down the side of the welt and into the stitching. and I think that would happen quite quickly. Because you're going to have to kind of twist this to get it out. If my design comes off correctly, you're going to have to give it a bit of a wiggle. And doing that, you're going to get down the side of the welt and cut your stitching off, and you'll be sending it back in a week. So I'm thinking we fold it the other way. So if we fold it along this edge, and fold it over, and we'll stitch around here, then there won't be any stitching for this edge to cut. It'll just be up against the solid leather, which is going to be a bit more durable than a bit of stitching. The next real big issue is stopping it falling out. Like I mentioned before, gravity is not on our side with this thing. There's a bit of weight in it. It's not stupid heavy, but it's enough to give us some problems. It's not like a little neck knife that you carry around your neck that you can just pop in. This is going to pose some issues. Now you can see with this knife, I've wet formed it, and it's nice and snug. And it just pops in, and it's not going to drop out. I'm hoping we can get away with the same idea with this knife, but I'm thinking we're going to have to go a step further. I've thrown around a couple of ideas. Perhaps we put in a fillet along this edge, so we have to push over the fillet and drop in, and then we can't pull it out past it. We have to, like I mentioned before, we'd have to twist to pull over the fillet. That's an option, but how well that would hold it, I don't know yet. Besides that, well, I was chatting this through with a friend of mine, John, if you're watching, thank you. He mentioned about a spring steel clip that is constantly in this position, but when you kind of push the knife through, it's going to pinch it and hold it. And I think that's a really good idea. There are a couple of issues with that though. Firstly, where do I source these said spring clips? Secondly, how do I secure them inside the sheath? Not going to be a straightforward procedure. And also, I don't particularly want metal on metal. Don't want to scratch this surface. I mean, I know it's meant for working in the woods, but I don't want to. I think this looks like it's been finished so it doesn't rust. So I don't want to knacker that up. So, what do we do? I like the idea of having something that pinches it, but I don't particularly want steel, and I want something that I can either sew through or rivet, or I don't know. I then thought maybe Kydex would work. Well, Kydex would definitely work. Then I remembered he's a wildland firefighter, and Kydex is a thermoplastic. So if you don't know, Kydex is a thermoplastic that you would form around the knife. You heat it up, you put it in the oven, heat it up, take it out, it's all nice and floppy, fold it around the knife, leave it to set, and it stays in that position forever essentially. And it would work great for this. It would click in. It's a little bit noisy, so if you're going deer stalking or something, it wouldn't be ideal, but I don't think he is. I don't think he'd go deer stalking with this anyway. So the problem with that is he's a wildland firefighter. He's going to be in hot places, and the Kydex could well give up its shape. Knife drop out. Game over. Also, the customer's asked for a nice leather sheath. I would feel a bit of a fraud if I had sent him back a Kydex sheath covered in leather. It's not what he's paying me for. So if I really want to do it with leather, if physically possible. And it is physically possible. It is. Some of you are thinking, well, why don't you just do a normal leather sheath and put a closure on it, like a press stud or something to stop it slipping out? Yeah, I could do that, but it makes it tricky being a one hand draw. You know, if you need it in a hurry, you know, if you, I don't know, if you need it in a hurry and you've only got one hand and you just have to pull, you haven't got time to be faffing around behind your back trying to find the press stud, and you get the picture. So I then realised, in this wonderful world of leather that we live in, there is also the option of rawhide. Now, I've never used rawhide, I've never had a reason to use rawhide, but if you think about those dog chews that you get, the ones that are kind of like, looks like a bone, it's kind of knotted at both ends, that's essentially rawhide. Think about how hard those things are. If we can get some rawhide, which is untanned leather, it's basically skin that you wet and fold, put it into its shape, let it dry, it stays in its shape. If we can use some of that to do what the Kydex would have done, that would be amazing. That would solve all our problems. And then I would clad that in leather, do some nice tooling on the outside, and it'd look really smart. So I think that's probably the route I'm going to go down, if we can get it to hold its shape. So we'll get the rawhide, we'll wet it, or we'll soak it so that it's nice and pliable. We'll put it on the knife, fold it over, and then I'm going to really make this pinched tight in here. So I'll probably get the hammer out and I'll hammer down around this edge so it's really snug. And then we'll be stitching around the outside. So I'll leave it big around the outside. Then I'll get my the actual leather and then fit it all up together. Once I've got the outside shape, then I'll tool the outside leather and I'll glue it all in shape. And hopefully it will all work nicely. I'll do a little bit of wet forming around this handle area, which should give us a bit more support. But yeah, there's going to be a big section here where it's kind of open, fresh air. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out around here. So this is the section that I'm unsure on currently. Do I come down right angles and go over there and mould it in here? Or do I trim this and have it completely open? That I don't know yet. But I'm thinking the rawhide will come... Well, now I'm thinking, is the rawhide better coming from this edge and just doing a portion to pinch? Or do I do the full of this outside edge, the full thing? If we fold from this edge to this edge, the distance between our pivot point being the fold and here, where it's trying to pinch, that's where it really needs to be tight on the knife. It's longer, and so it's going to be easier to open and close, or there's going to be less strength in that pinch, if that makes any sense. If we were to do it from this spine edge, and we were to mould it so that it was pinched shut all the time and then force the knife in afterwards, so rather than mould it around the knife, we mould it to closed and then force the knife in. This shorter distance would give us a much tighter spring, I think. I'm going to have to do some experiments when this rawhide arrives, and I'll let you know. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe, and click that little bell underneath the video for notifications. And yeah, we'll see you next time, hopefully with a bit more of an idea of how we're going to progress with this thing. Thanks.